welcome to Model Kit Stuff and this week's first impressions video, which is focused on Trumpeter's 1 to 350 scale USS Langley AV-3. We'll talk more about that in a moment. So this is Trumpeter's 2021 release of a kit that was originally a new tool in 2019, but with differences. And when you understand the history of the ship, you'll understand why Trumpeter have released two different versions of this ship. Now, in actual fact, this ship here has three versions. Two as USS Langley, but originally she started out life in 1913 as the USS Jupiter and was a collier. So she was a working ship, and that is why when you look at her profile, she looks very Titanic-like, particularly at the stern there. The Americans will class USS Langley as the first ever American Navy aircraft carrier. Now, in the UK, we wouldn't call her an aircraft carrier, we'd call her a flat top, which is a ship that's been converted into an aircraft carrying ship. And we had the Royal Navy had a number of those in the Second World War, converted ships. But the Americans refer to her as an aircraft carrier, and then later on in her life she got converted to this version as a seaplane tender, which is the version we have here. Now, of the two versions, USS Langley as an aircraft carrier and USS Langley as a ship's tender, I prefer this version just because I like the bridge setup and what have you that we've got here. Whereas when you build the aircraft carrier version, which was the kit Trumpeter brought out in 2019, the flight deck is extended to the tip of the bow there, and you just get literally a flat top. So, but this imagery that Trumpeter have used on the box art, for me, is pre-war looking at the aircraft. It's a nice piece of artwork that shows what she would be like in working life. I think it's a nice picture and an unusual subject. And those of you that have been following the channel for a while know that I like the unusual. So, yeah, nice little picture. Tells us it's the Langley 1/350 scale, detailed kit for adult collectors, not suitable for children under 3. So if you're 2.5 and you're thinking you might build this, probably not for you just yet. On the edges we have the kit number, which is 05632, and we can see it's the same on that side. We have the usual Trumpeter AutoCAD imagery on the side, which gives you an indication of what you might get in the box. Then we get a little potted history. So the box is nice and sturdy. It's decent construction for shipping around the world, so no issues with the packaging. We've got the usual instruction manual, which we'll have a closer look at in a moment, and then we have lots of plastic, all separately wrapped. Then we've got some loose plastic components and a full hull. Right, let's have a look at the instructions first. Okay, our instruction book is the typical Trumpeter A4 stapled booklet. This one's a bit tatty because actually it doesn't fit the box particularly well, so it's got a bit creased and curled up. But as always with Trumpeter, we have the side profile of the ship, which gives you this nice view of the tender there. We've got the key at the bottom, as always, for the instructions. Gives you some tips there on applying decals, and then you've got a short read before assembly tip section. So all good. Then, as always, we have a sprue map, 10 sprues, although I'm fairly sure those items we saw loose in a bag. Another bit of deck. Interested to have a look at what that is. I don't see any clear parts in this. I imagine the aircraft will be clear. And then it carries on 3 sheets of photo etch, the decals, and a stand, so they're generic stand. And then on page 5 we start with the instructions. Let's have a closer look. So construction starts with the deck going into the hull, which seems to incorporate, don't know whether that's some form of stiffener or it's a bulkhead. Get a better view, I suppose, later on. Could be bulkheads. It could be that bit of deck is lower than those, possibly, and sits in there. I imagine that might be what it is. So those would be bulkheads. We've got some drilling to do. As usual with a trumpeter, they don't give you a clue as to what size drill bit you should be using. So that's when things like these reamers come in handy, because you can just open it up to what feels right by the marks left on the kit. And then we've got 2 cranes being built right from the off, so that's interesting. And we've got photo etch parts right from the off as well. Anything with a PE is a photo etch part. And look at the detail that we've got on that. I'll be interested to see if the plastic part looks as good as the drawing. Okay, that is step 1. Hull. That all makes sense, putting the deck in first. Then step 2, we're flipping over and putting the shaft lines in and the rudder, and then we are making up ship's boats, another hole in what will be the flight deck section. So that appears to be, if we look ahead at the next step, we're not fitting the ship's boats, so that is sub-assembly. And as always with trumpeter instructions, I advise that you box these little subsections off and change your numbering and just change the sequence, the build sequence, to suit your building style and your needs. So for example, you probably don't want to put those on until the moment before you're about to paint the hull. So it depends on how you want to build your ship. Then we have fittings going onto the forecastle. So we've got separate cable reels. I can't see any moulded on ones, Tanya, just saying. And we've got fair leads, bollards, all that type of stuff going on at the front, so that'll all look nice. Then we're building up an anchor, and we've got some photo etch parts going into this building here, which has a search lamp platform on the top. So another sub-assembly, because we're not putting that in on the next step. So that's 2 lots of things that I wouldn't make at the stages that they've recommended. So then we've got a lot of, well, they basically look like hold doors, don't they? So I imagine they'd have lots of stuff in the hold, aircraft parts and stuff, and they'll have a gantry crane, and they'll be able to take all this stuff out of the hold as they need it. So lots and lots of doors there, a little bit of superstructure. Looks like we've got fire hoses and doors moulded on, which is nice. Lots and lots of tying off points. Some of that will be for the aircraft when they're in the water, I'd imagine. Then we come and look at the stern area of the ship, and again, lots of fair leads and bits and pieces being placed around there. And then we go back to the bow. So again, you might want to change the build sequence here. makes sense to do that earlier step where we put in the fair leads and cable reels on, and then continue to build it up with vents. We've got deck guns. Not quite sure what that is. That might be some form of windlass by the looks of it. Anchors are going in, so those are the anchors that we made earlier, and we're making up, oh, that's H, which is that part there, which becomes part of the windlass assembly rather than capstans. Okay, lots of little parts there. Photo etch ladders, of course, because it's Trumpeter, so that's very nice. Okay, and then we've got photo etch railings going on. Not sure whether I'd do that at this stage or not. Get a better view once we've been through the whole instructions. And then we've got some photo etch railings going on here. I'm absolutely definitely not putting those on before we've got the funnel stacks in. Yeah, that's a hiding to nothing. That ladders going in, which will add some nice detail, and then more stuff going on at the stern, including that little sub-assembly we made up earlier on. So deck guns and vents and a capstan there. So plenty of thought needed in these first 6 steps about how you want to tackle it. Probably best working stern to bow or bow to stern, whichever you prefer, and just work in one area at a time, but that's just me. Right, then step 7, we are building up what looks like gantry cranes going on the underside of the flight deck, I'm going to guess. I'm guessing, looking at that edge, that's the underside, that would make sense. Or am I wrong there? Oh, that might, well, we'll have to have a look at the plastic part. That could be the top of the deck, because you've got some form of optional mast there. So probably was taken down when the aircraft were taking off or landing or whatever was being done. I don't know. I think they probably, in this version, the aircraft took off and landed in the water and were just craned on. So why that would be an option, I don't know. And then we've got a ladder. Not clear to me where that's going or how that's attaching. Flagstaff going underneath to come out of the back. Right, so we're building up the gantry cranes there, but it's another sub-assembly because we don't immediately need them. We're then building aircraft, which seems a little bit random unless, of course, you can't get access to placing them until later in the build. Assembly of PY2. Well, anyway, we have wings being built up. We've got separate engines with photo etched propellers, so that's nice. We've got tails there that look very detailed with photo etch. The aircraft fuselages are 2 halves with separate wheels, and look at that, look at how much we've got photo etch rigging between there. So if that was Tamiya, you'd have a little plastic spacer thing that held the 2 wings together and apart, and that'd be it. But we've got all this lovely photo etch here that it's going to make it look quite authentic. So yeah, interested in that. That's really quite nice. Aircraft look really good at that stage. And then in step 9, we are building up this framework here, which has the cranes that we built right at the start being installed. along with some booms. All of that seems to be plastic parts. We'll have a look at those. If they're slide moulded, they could be quite nice, but if they're not, they could be a bit lumpy. So we seem to have a first section being built and then a second longer section being built. Okay. And then in step 11, I think those are the two bits we've just built being attached together, and then we've got this being built. So you've got this structure that's going to be quite large, really. When you attach all that onto there, it's quite a sizable piece of construction that needs to be done. Seems to have a sort of peg in a hole type construction, so hopefully will go together quite nicely and align well. I think that'll be interesting to see how that comes together. We've got cable reels there that go on the front, and then we're building up what looks to me like a roof, because we've got searchlight lamps mounted on it. So it's a deck or a roof, but again, another sub-assembly that's just a little bit random, really. Right, step 13, we're on superstructure. So this looks like the bridge, photo etch bridge. So that's nice. The window framing won't look too thick, so that's a really nice touch. And that goes on that little platform there. We've got a building structure behind it, splinter shields with separate life rings. We've got some form of binnacle or something like. We have some form of binnacle or something like that that's sitting on the wings. Not quite sure. Could be machine gun mount, maybe. Don't know. Some form of photo etch supports going on either side. And then the sub-assembly from the last page is sitting on top as a deck, which also forms the roof of the bridge and the roof of those buildings there. So yeah, so I would have moved the sub-assembly to after that step. So you can see why I divide up Trumpeter, particularly Trumpeter's instructions, and renumber them in a different order, because it just doesn't make sense sometimes. Right. Then we're flipping that underneath, upside down, and we're putting all of these little supports in. So we've got detail underneath there, and the structural detail and the supports. And look how many we've got. That's really, really nice. So they've not just done the front and the back and not bothered about the middle. They've done the whole thing so it looks right. Thank you, Trumpeter. Really good job of that. That's going to look splendid when done. It really will add to the realism. A lot of kit companies would have just cut that middle bit out and saved a bit of time and half a penny. But no, Trumpeter have done the job properly. Got some more superstructure being built up there. Then we're adding the rails and the photo etch ladders. Yeah, possibly the right time to do the railings. I personally, well, the ladders are going inside the structure, so yeah, again, that'd be all right. You're going to have to think about, depending on what's on your deck, you're going to have to think about how you want to paint that and what your process flow is there. More superstructure, more structural detail. That's really not, if it's done well and we've not got tons of ejector pin marks underneath, then that should be a real pleasure. Then a bit more superstructure being built up. Step 14. So we've got some quite fancy pipework here to basically avoid the flight deck above. So that allows for these to then come out of the side of the hull, and they look, I mean, they look quite interesting, don't they? They look like some form of 18th century early steam train or something, but yeah, it's just such a fascinating looking ship, isn't it? So anyway, we've got these big moulded superstructures. We've got the skylights and stuff already moulded in. Seems to be a fair amount of detail around the sides. It's not just a slab side like other people, Tamiya, might have done. So yeah, that all looks quite nice. We've got more structural components. Looks like winding gear there. Some vents. I'm not sure. I mean, they look like flag lockers, but depend on their location, whether that's what they are. And then in step 15, we're bringing all of this together, and we've got some form of heavy lifting crane there. And all those bits of superstructure we built are being brought together along with the inside facing box that goes behind the outer hull edge there for the funnels there, the smokestacks there. Ventilation going on, more structural detail, photo etch this time, which includes the railings, so that's a nice touch. So it won't look all thick and chunky. So there's quite a bit of finesse in this, I can tell just from the instructions. Lots of pre-cut railings going on and more photo etch ladders. So she will look very busy under there. Lovely. Right, and we're now back to this framework. So you can see it just keeps jumping around. Trumpeter used to build lots of sub-assemblies, and then you assemble it all together, and then lots of sub-assemblies, and then you assemble it all together. And now they are doing some sub-assemblies and jumping around between this section, then going to another section, then going back to the last section, and it's just a little bit all over the place. So the build doesn't flow from my point of view. Anyway, we are now adding more components to this girder framework that we've previously built up, and we're using the first of the ship's boats on their platforms there. Step 18. So we've got all of that superstructure we've built going on. Then we are, where's that going? Oh, we're adding more components to that, but we're not actually adding that yet. Okay. Ship's boats going on. I mean, we made these in the first step, were they? They're only just going on now. Bridge is going on. More winding gear. But look, 3 parts in the winding gear. Detail level's going to be lovely, I'm sure of it. And then step 19, we've finally put in the first section of this girder construction in. So that'll be the end point of where they've cut the flight deck off when they've converted it. We've got these things, whatever they are, being put in, and some form of platform going on top of them, some form of raised platform. Quite a few davits going on, and the other ship's boats. Pretty ship. So that for a sec. Step 20, the stern section of that girder construction going in there. Okay, I mean, look how busy that looks. Really nice. We've got some booms going on, gantry ladders, more photo etch railings, booms, davits and boats. So we're in the final moments of build here, and then that carries on with booms. I mean, there's lots of booms, but as an aircraft tender, you'd expect that. Lots and lots of booms, some form of photo etch walkway, is that? Okay, then they've got railing going around the deck railing going around the outside there at the stern. Again, not sure that's the right time to put that on. I might be tempted to put that on before that goes in, I'm not sure. And some separate life rings. And then finally we have the deck going on. So there's no guidance on where to put the aircraft and how to stow the aircraft or anything like that. Probably a little bit of research is needed to understand how many aircraft would have been on here. You might want to buy some extras and make it really busy, especially if you're going to do a diorama. It's almost crying out for that to be put to sea with the ship's boats and maybe a tugboat and some of the aircraft dotted around it. I think it would look stunning, that. And that is perhaps an idea, isn't it? That does, yeah, it looks lovely. That looks less lovely, however. I don't want to see 1/350 scale on my plaque. US aircraft carrier, US. The rest of it's okay. So we'll probably get rid of that and put some form of flag on there or something. I don't know. Instructions, as always with Trumpeter, nice and clear, but the flow, the process flow, the build leaves a lot to be desired. So yeah, okay, that's your instructions. Let's have a look at the paint instructions. Often the Achilles heel of Trumpeter. Right then, the paint instructions, as always, my word of warning with Trumpeter paint instructions is check, double check, and then check again, because sometimes they can be a little bit random with their paint choices. We don't have any camouflage patterns, so it's a bit more simplified. When they do camouflages, they can go a little bit AWOL on reality. So what we've got is aircraft in the top corner, then the ship below, and then we've got the paint chart listed here, which is doing Mr. Hobby, Acrison, Vallejo, Model Master, Tamiya, and good old Humbrol. So we've got everything, every major brand covered off there. For me, there's already, the one thing that's already pointing out to me is the anchors. They stand out, and certainly on the photographs I've seen of Langley, the anchors are definitely the same colour as the hull. So this is what I mean about them being a little bit random. So for me, I would check all of those colours and make your own conclusions. They're going to be the standard US Navy paints used from that period. So yeah, I would definitely double check and come up with your own paint plan. The other downside of Trumpeter's paint plan is this is the only time they talk about paint, so you don't know what other colours might have been involved in the ship. Although most of it you'd imagine being superstructure is the hull colour, there will be other little colours. You know, the life rings, for example, they're not telling you what colour they are. The booms, are they wood as they're shown there, or are they actually painted the hull colour? When you see pictures of her, they look a bit darker, so it could be right. So for me, it's all of this, pretty much ignore and do your own homework. Same with the aircraft, pick your period and make sure that you've got your aircraft colourings correct. I do like the yellow top wing there. So if we'll have a look and see how many aircraft we get, but my gut feeling is we need to get some more for this kit. Right, that is the paint chart done. Let's have a look at the decals next. Okay, the decals come with the protective cover actually taped on both sides. I do like that. A lot of companies put protective cover in and they might as well not have bothered because it's loose and it comes immediately off. Right, let's have a look at the decals. We have what look like markings for the flight deck. We have what looks like markings for the aircraft. And we've got flags. And that will be the name that goes on the stern, I think. But we don't have depth markers, which is a shame. We don't have any signal flags or anything like that. Yeah, you know what? If they'd just put depth markers on, I'd have been happy with that. And the decals themselves, colour looks good, look nice and sharp. They're not too big. They don't feel lumpy under the touch, so don't imagine we'll have any issues with the decals. So looking at the photo etch now, and the 3 sheets of photo etch end up being 4 because we've got 2 of those. So if we deal with that one first, I never know what the material is that Trumpeter used, but it's certainly some form of brass alloy, not brass. The propellers look nice. You could probably put a little twist on those and just add to the realism of them. To me, these look like all the aircraft parts. So all that fancy rigging that we saw. So I would think all of that is dealing with the aircraft. And what we can see there is we've probably got 6 aircraft, or are some of them double-engined? And we might only have 4 aircraft. We will see. So, yeah, some very fine photo etch on there, some very thin stuff. Be easy to damage that, some care needed. Then when we look at this one, we've got some squares. I'm not sure what they are. We've got some cut-to-length railing, rigging for the crane. Those are the little brackets we saw going around the bridge area, and the lifting hooks, which have some relief detail, so they all look nice. And then finally, we have this one here, which has got the bridge. Now the bridge is disappointing. Let me show you what I'm talking about. So there's little gaps on the folds there. They're called fast bends, and the idea is that it's easy to fold the etch without getting it to distort. It's something actually used in the fabrication industry with laser cutting, and they cut perforations in so that you've only got tabs, and it's quicker and easier to bend, and it takes the cost out of doing it. But in the etch world, it takes distortion out of part forming. The problem is not everyone solders, and when you fold that you will have gaps and it won't look right, and you'll have to fill it. And filling photo etch can be quite difficult unless you've done soldering, and not everyone likes soldering. So for me, I can see why they've done it. We've got a very thin pillar there. So 3rd pillar in on each side is a corner post. So for me, I might be tempted to actually cut through the tabs and separate that into 3 parts and then glue them together. If you're not going to solder it. So yeah, and I'm not too keen on them doing that. They did it with the Exeter on the bridge roof, and it looked dreadful. You spent a lot of time filling it in. Hobby Boss did it on their 1200 Macassar as well, and it just doesn't look right. Okay, rant over. We've got lots of railings cut to length, some of them shaped, which is nice. All of them appear to be 4 bar, although with different heights and different spacings, so that all looks good. The ladders all have something I have not seen before. If you look at the ladders there, they have a little top rung that's only joined on one side and at an angle. I'm sure when we fold it, it'll all make sense, but yeah, I've not seen that before, I don't think. But all of the ladders have that. Then we've got the railings with the structural parts. Railings are very fine, and we've got some bits for the cranes there. And we've got some bits for the cranes there. So yeah, all in all, some nice etch. That was the crane assembly from the first step in the instructions. Yeah, that adds a nice level of finesse to the finished model, doesn't it? Okay, plastic parts. We're going to start with the hull. And as always, it's nicely packed. It's come in an individual bag, so there'll be no scuff marks on it. And then we have this foam wrap, which they tend to use on things that they consider to be delicate parts. I think it's a really nice touch. Does save things from getting damaged usually, though once or twice I have come across a bit of transit damage on a Trumpeter ship. There we go. So we have this structure here. Wow. Okay. Let's start underneath. So underneath we've got some connection points that are going to need to be removed, and we've got a seam line to be removed, and we've got slide moulding lines at the start and end of the bilge keel that need to be removed. Otherwise, that is nice. We have all of the individual steel plates moulded into the ship, so that is really lovely. We've got the paravane mounting point there with the holes drilled out. That is gorgeous. We've got open hose pipes, which is also lovely. We've got detail here right on the top that's open. The scuttles don't have eyebrows, and I don't know whether that is correct or not, but there is no distortion in the shape of them either, so that is really well done. Then the fair lead openings are nice. They've got a little lip on them. That's beautiful. We've got some hatches moulded in there. A little lumpy in this area here. I'm not sure why. It just doesn't look quite as crisp as the rest of it. Then we come up to this structure here. It's got all the gussets underneath. They could be thinner, but they don't look bad at all. We've got open scuttles at the top there. Tiny bit of flash, nothing. So that's where the funnel smokestack things will come out of. Yeah. We've got the little bump strip around the back there. Beautifully done stern. Quite a heavy seam line down the middle there, but nothing that won't come off easily. And then we've got the hinge halves for the rudder. Oh yeah, that just about see, we can just about, there's a little mark there. That's the mounting point for the shaft lines. So quite short shaft lines actually. That is really, really, really nice actually. All of that detail on there, and it's not really heavy like on their hood models, both 350 and 200. The armour plate lines they put on are really, really thick and a bit heavy, but this really isn't. It's very nicely done. I imagine all of this was riveted, and there's no rivets on there, but at this scale, you know, would you really see them? No, it's always that battle between realism and the right impression. Isn't that gorgeous? That is a lovely, lovely hull. Yeah, I'm really impressed with that actually. Very, very nice. Okay, so next we have the top flight deck. This is really, really well done. It's a beautiful piece of tooling work. So on here we have lots and lots of butt joints, which at first look irregular, which probably wouldn't be the case, but when you study it for a moment or two, you can see they're regular down the middle, and then they spread out in an irregular pattern, but that pattern keeps repeating. It looks so natural and so beautiful. It is really, really well done. I'm not quite sure what these little things are. There's several of them. They look like little rope coils. I'm guessing they're probably not, but that's what it looks like. And then when we flip it over, we've got all of this lovely framework put on. So, all right, it's not got all the sort of detail that the real thing would have had with holes in and stuff, but the fact that it's there and you can give that a wash and you could be able to look up and see it, I think is really nice. A lot of kit manufacturers would not have bothered. And then we've got a more detailed framework around the outside, tiny little bit of flash on both ends, but nothing. And we've got some joints to get rid of on the edges. Right, how many ejector pin marks can you see? There is not a single ejector pin mark on all of that. That is absolutely fantastic. How they've done it, I don't know, and to a certain degree, not too bothered. That is absolutely lovely. All you've got to do is clean up the sides, paint it up, plop it on. Brilliant. Absolutely beautiful. Love it. Okay, next is the centre deck. I'm going to call it the well deck. It sits lower than the forecastle and the stern deck, poop deck if you like. It's got little squares marked out, which is the foundation for each one of those girder legs. What they've done, where the little rope bollards go, they've put bases in. So they'll look really authentic when they go in. Often it's just two holes in the deck and you don't get the plate. So obviously in terms of scale the plate's oversized, but it's not that massively oversized and it'll look more authentic. And it's the conversation I've had with one or two of you now in the chat, where when we talk about rivets and stuff, there's a trade-off between scale accuracy and the right impression of what the subject would look like. So for me, I like those, and I'm guessing this is where we put all those doors on top, those sort of hold doors. We don't see the underneath of that, so we're not bothered about all the ejector pins. Stern deck now, and it carries on as the well deck did. We've got these little points here that are raised, and that's pretty much the only thing on there because all the detail has been added on as separate parts rather than being moulded in. So you know, we've not got the issue of lots and lots of little boxes and things to paint. So I like that. There's no deck texture because it's a steel deck. So yeah, a little bit of research needed to understand what was on that deck, whether it was steel, whether there was Semtex or linoleum or anything like that on there, or even if there was walkways in anti-slip. But yeah, that all looks nice. Now, in the bag with the bow deck, we get another bag. I didn't spot this in the instructions, but we do have some copper anchor chain. I would suggest it was slightly over scale, but what I do like about it, not sure if we can pick it up, is the link is elongated, so it looks more like stud chain than if it was circular, which is the stuff that you'd get from Pontos or that lot. You want an elongated chain on a ship, really, and that is nicely done, so quite happy with that. Better chain than some. When we look at the forecastle, it almost looks like a resin part. It really does. We've got some skylights moulded on. Shame we've not got photo etch tops on those, but anyway, we've got skylights. The windows are depressed so you can paint them in. We've got some detail on there around the hose pipes, which are already open, so that's a nice touch. We've got the mount there for the windlass, and we've got the breakwater moulded in, which looks a little bit heavy, but doesn't look out of scale particularly. So I think they've done a good job of that. There is, with my magnifying glasses on, there is a slight unevenness in areas. Like I say, almost like resin. I'm not sure if the camera can pick it up, but if you look around the little square footings for the well, there isn't any at the bow, is there? Maybe that's those photo etch plates maybe go in there as cover plates for when she was converted from being an aircraft carrier, possibly. Didn't see that in the instructions either, but very nicely done. The stand, I'm not going to dwell on the stand too much. It's their standard stand. It has quite a lot of heavy ejector pin marks, so if you're going to use it, you do need to put a bit of effort into it. It needs a fair amount of Mr. Surfacer to get that where you want it to be, but it's not the most unattractive of stands ever made, but these are a bit chunky. Anyway, there's your stand. The next bag has two slide moulded superstructure parts in it. So we'll have a look at this smaller one first, and wow, it's exquisite, it really is. We've got open windows, not marked out windows, open windows. We've got detailed watertight doors. There's no other surface detail on there, ladders or anything like that. And then on the top we've got some nicely detailed skylights. Basic but nice. It's all very crisply moulded. No issues with any of that. May want to just go around the inside and thin it out a little bit, because when you look at the windows side on, they do look a little thick. Material is 1.5 mil, maybe a bit less, I guess. So a little bit of thinning out on the inside just to give you a scale look. But yeah, that's quite a nice little piece. Then when we look at this one, again we've got plenty of skylights. We've got some raised deck area, not quite sure what that's going to be. That is where the funnels come from, isn't it? And I think they both head over that little support there for the pipe work. We've got, is that flat? Hard to tell, I'm not sure that's perfectly flat, but anyway. We've got some watertight doors on the side and scuttles that aren't drilled out. Watertight doors there. Yeah, so other than watertight doors, there's not much on the sides. Whether that's right or not, I don't know. That's the bit that goes into that funny bulge on the hull there. Yeah, looks all right though, doesn't it? So the next bag has a number of these parts in that are the girder framework, and what you can see is that I think these, yes they are, they're slide moulded I think. The way you can usually tell if something's slide moulded is the sprue tends to be flat, or at least have a flat edge on one. At least that's how I work out what's slide moulded and what's not. You've got no seam on mould seam on the sides or anything. All the ejector pins are on these tabs. There is a mould seam on the top edge there. These are all solid. It would have been hard, I'm guessing, to make them not solid. I don't think it would have been impossible, but you might have ended up with something a bit chunky and over scale as a result. So you've got to make a balance, and they've gone with making them solid but making them look accurate. So you'd paint these in the frame colour and then give them a dark grey wash or something so that the girder structure stood out, and that's the best you can do with them, really. I mean, they're all much of a muchness, all have a seam on the top, ejector tabs to remove, but otherwise look really quite nice. I'm not unhappy with those as plastic parts, although it's tempting to remove them and replace them, isn't it, if you can. Then we've got this little slide moulded cabin. So open windows, open scuttles, or portholes, I beg your pardon, actually they're not open, and watertight doors. Next bag has a number of little slide moulded superstructure parts in. They all have open windows in, like the others. They're nicely done, there's no other details on them particularly. They will need a sand just to make the surfaces totally smooth, they're a bit textured actually. We have an opening there. Yeah, this one you can see there's quite a rough texture underneath the windows. You can feel it definitely. So the parts will need a little bit of finish, a little bit of flash on it. So a couple of watertight doors on that one, and again open windows on that one. So yeah, collection of parts, all slide moulded, so easy to prep up and paint. Right, let's deal with the aircraft next. We've got two bags with 3 sprues in each, so let's have a look at what we've got. So what we've got is 6 sprue in 2 bags, which are all the same. So this sprue P2Y. So like I say, 6 of them. We've got 12 etch propellers, so that means we've got 6 aircraft in total. All of them the same aircraft, and I thought we had 2 different types, but I'll have a look at that again in a sec. So it's all clear parts. I personally don't like them being clear. I think it's harder to assemble, especially when the only really clear thing on here is the canopy. So you know, why do the wheels and the wings in clear? It makes no sense to me. Anyway, They are lovely. We've got lots of panel lines and textures inscribed on there. All looks really quite nice. We've got the floats have got a nice shape. The wheels are just going to be genetic flat wheels. You won't be able to tell the tyres and the hubs apart. But the engine cowlings, you can see the radial engine inside. I don't know if I can get that to catch in the light. There we go. You can see the radial engine inside, so a little bit of a wash on that and it looks stunning. Yeah, and you've got the little handrail detail around the outside. They're not bad aircraft for 1/350 scale, and I'm happy with those. And then remember, we've got to add a load of photo etch to them. So this becomes a modelling project in its own right. Probably going to take longer than doing all those aircraft for Megami, just because of how detailed these are going to be. Our next bag has 4 E-sprues. And they have on them some structural parts which are nicely done. We've got bollards, fair leads, what look like machine gun stands, davits which are a bit basic in fairness. We've got the deck mounted gun there. Boom that's a little bit distorted. Same with that one, they're not quite straight, the booms, but they're nicely detailed. And we've got a vent there, which looks quite nice. The ship's boat probably would have been clinker, although it's totally smooth. Does have deck detail on the inside, which is nice. Another vent and a single piece spot lamp with a very big gate on it. That won't be easy to clean up. Difficult to decide which is the front and which is the back, because they look the same. And then a life ring. So you can see the detail inside the ship's boat there. That's really nice. Some small parts there. Well done. A little bit of work to do on some of them. These will be the doors there that are going on the hold doors. Fair leads are quite nicely done. Yeah, nothing wrong with those. A little bit of seam, but that's about it. Otherwise, fairly crisp. Okay, a small little sprue M2 in a bag on its own, and we've got mainly crane legs and booms of different types. Not quite sure what that little piece is. And then this is the bridge roof where the spot lamps were going on, and the steel deck is got no texture on it at all. So again, something we'd have to check. And then when you flip it over, they've done a lovely job of putting the little structural details on underneath. But we've also got quite a few ejector pin marks in there. And those obviously will get covered up because there's structure underneath them. But all these will have to be, they're all countersunk as well. So they'll all have to be levelled, bit of Mr. Surfacer, and some gentle sanding, and that should sort those out. But that's probably the part with the most clean-up work of everything we've seen so far. Sprue F now. This was in a bag on its own. I'm just going to unwrap the sponge. Okay, so we have bit more of the girder structure and the ends there. We have some more superstructure that is, oh, that's interesting. We've got one that's slide moulded. I'm not sure that the other ones are. Seems to have door openings in that one and solid windows in that one, which we haven't seen before. Watertight doors. That's that strange platform. So the strange platform, now I see it, I understand what it is. It's the elevator. So that's the platform with the lift. So you can see the deck detail on there. So that's nice. That means we can put a bit of animation on, and I do like that. Though underneath is pretty horrid. I'm almost tempted to say take that off, smooth it out, and put it back on out of strip, because that is going to be horrendous to clean up. We've got square ejector pins, round ejector pins. We've got ejector pin impressions in the actual part, and a little bit of flash. Yeah, I think we're possibly reworking that part. The rudder, that's a little disappointing. It's totally featureless. I'm sure it wouldn't have been. There would have been something coming off from each of those hinge points, I would have thought, given the period this was designed and built. Anyway, we have a deck there with structural detail underneath, and again quite a lot of recessed ejector pin marks. It's the same with these. These are sort of deck extensions. It's got the ship's boats on the top, but underneath you've got all the structure and loads of ejector pin marks. Not quite sure what that is. Big rows of gussets there though. And then crane. So it needs a little bit of clean up around the edges, but should look quite smart under paint, that. The shaft lines look bent to me. They don't look very straight. Might be tempted to cut the plastic rod out, drill a hole in each end, and put a bit of metal rod in there, possibly, because there's no way that's straight. Let me just check. Well, it's straighter than I thought, but it does bow. That one worse than that one. We'd have to have a look, but that's definitely a possible to sort that out. Okay, sprue M1. We have the big nameplate on there, the mast, a couple of the little search lamps. Not quite sure what that tiny part is. Something that looks like it's for one of the cranes, and then some winding gear. There's quite a bit of flash in comparison to the rest of the kit, at least. Quite a bit of flash on some of these parts, particularly the top end of the mast. For me, the yard arm there is a little bit oversized. Might be tempted to replace that with some thin wire, maybe. I don't like them putting the scale on the name plaque. I guess some people won't mind it. For me, it bothers me. So we'll take that off, and then we've got space there to put a flag, a decal, or something like that. You can see the flash there. Okay, the last sprue is G, and we've got the propellers, which are actually nice and thin. They'll look all right. They probably, the moulding's a bit lumpy actually. They need a bit of a gentle sand, but they'll look all right on. We've got part of the windlass there. We've got the pipe work for the chimney systems. We've got some of those structural components we saw being put in. That's the upper flight deck mask. We've got davits. These ones look a little nicer than the other ones we saw. Some of the deck fittings, more davits, more vents, lots of vents. The openings on the vents vary in thickness of sidewalls, so some of them will need a little bit of work to open them out a bit. Yeah, and the sort of the funnel tops. Again, probably want to thin out the side walls of those when you come to fit them. Just putting a taper on the edge will help with that. And then on this end we've got some slide moulded superstructure. Again, open windows. This means we can glaze them, which is nice. And we've got fire hose there. That's the only time we've seen detail other than the doors. Well, that's the kit done. Let's have a look at some aftermarket photo etch and see what we can do to raise the level of that model a little bit. So this first set we're going to look at, this is the Langley set. So it's the general update set. As always with Eduard photo etch, it's high quality. This is brass. Not some alloy, and it seems to focus primarily on replacing all of those girders, maybe some gussets. Let's have a look at the instructions. But yeah, that's going to really enhance the look of the model, isn't it? So as we look at the instructions, it is referencing the kit parts that are going in to the blue areas, all being their photo etch parts. We've got fold instructions there to make it clear what you're doing, and they appear to be using the same system of plug-in together. They seem to have tabs that glue on the top, but you've got the circles that the kit parts have. So yeah, constructing it together in the same way as the kit parts were constructed together. So the front end, middle end, and then I'm guessing as we flip over, we do that shaped area for the stern. Probably good to build it onto the kit, I would think, without gluing it in, so you can use the little footprints as jigs. That might be the way I go. Then we've got some strengthening pieces that go on the bottom, more kit parts being incorporated. Then we've got some photo etch going in, and on the forecastle where we saw those squares and I said that they might get filled with photo etch, Eduard is certainly doing that, and removing something, correcting the position yeah, of the bollards there, and more plates going down, and then we have some gussets going underneath that beautiful flight deck. So we're not removing anything, other than the tab that you have to remove anyway. All we're doing is adding to it, so that's nice. Not a major piece of work actually. It's mainly fold it. I think your biggest question really is, are we gluing or are we soldering? But yeah, that is going to make a big difference to all of those solid girders. The last photo etch set is called safety nets, and sometimes the Eduard naming system can be a little bit deceptive, because this is actually the sort of the more general set in my mind. Anyway, let's have a look. We get one set of photo etch, and we've got lots of safety net on there and lots of gussets, and I don't know what they are, but I'm concerned there's a lot of them. We've got what looks like replacement plates for the bollards. Let's have a look at the instructions and see what we've got. So we've got more than one instruction page. So starting at the front, we're tackling the ship's boats. So yeah, the usual things that Eduard would do, the railing where it's been missed, that's all fairly typical Eduard stuff. And then on this boat we seem to have some extra decking going in to change the actual look of that, so I'm sure that will be an improvement, and a little rudder. We've got replacement boat chocks, which again is something Eduard always do and is always welcome. So although they weren't too bad, they were quite, you know, just solid lumps of plastic, so replacing them is a nice thing. Got a little bit of detail being added to the deck guns, and the davits have got lifting hooks, so that's nice as well. Again, we'll just add a little bit of finesse to that final look. Oh, that's interesting. They're removing the moulded on detail right at the stem of the ship there. That's interesting. They're removing the moulded on detail from the bow of the ship there and replacing it in the photo etch railing part. So that'll make it thinner, probably look a little bit more to scale, and then there's some form of structure going on there, and I can't quite work out what that would be. Not quite sure. Then so replacement railings. So that's gives us 2 bites at the cherry, doesn't it? Eduard's railings are generally a bit nicer than Trumpeter's. As I spotted on the mast, they're removing the yard arm and replacing it, actually correcting the position by the looks of it. Got a little photo etch platform and a ladder, so that'll add some detail as well. Flip her over. More railing replacement. Building up some form of box there. Hey. Don't see where that's going just yet. We've got little caps to go on the funnels, so that's nice. Means we'll have to be looking at whether we can thin that wall or not, depending on how that sits. More crane and davit hooks. Replacing the photo etch in the set with different photo etch for the main crane. We've got we saw a slide molded plastic part for that underneath the gantry crane, and it did look a little bit disappointing because it had solid windows and bits and pieces. We've got a photo etch replacement there, that will look better. Then we're replacing all those plastic gussets. We saw those 2 plastic strips with rows of gussets, replacing all of those. That'll be fun. We've got what looks like an extra platform in addition to what is provided in the kit, and another stern railing, and then we've got what looks like pulleys being added onto the sides of the framework there, and more pulleys going on underneath the flight deck. So quite a bit of detail added to the flight deck all in all, with both of the photo etch sets. And then this last page here, so that's the positioning of the nets around the flight deck. And we've got some form of extension to the pulleys there, cut off to fit. I think, is that for the, that might be for the flight decks to rest on. Ah, right, they're not pulleys. That's right, they drop down and pop up to allow the nets to go up and be dropped down. Right, I get it now. So, right, yeah, I'm with you. So the nets, when they're folded down, will sit on top of these little posts. And if you wanted to have the nets upright, I guess that would be doable as well. Okay. And one ladder being added to replace the one that's, and I still can't quite work out where it goes. Anyway. Okay, some nice details there. So having looked at the instructions, we now know that all of these little things are little stanchions that need to be folded for these nets. And the nets themselves look nice. Just going to turn the photo etch over. The walkway is all perforated, which is lovely. And the replacement gussets for those two strips. We can see there's some decking printed onto the ship's boat there. Replacement rudders. They're not what I thought they are. They're going to be folded up for those the hinge system for all of these stanchions. And then the various pulleys and bits and pieces. And that's the bit that replaces the front of the ship. Some nice details on there. So there we have it, the Trumpeter's 1 to 350 scale USS Langley AV-3, the Langley in her final iteration as a seaboat tender. What are my first impressions? I think that is a really nice kit overall. Highlights definitely the hull. The hull is really, really nice, and it's going to really pop. You can, as you can see in this picture, you've got lots of opportunity for weathering with all those individual panels on. Really, really like the hull. I think they've throughout Trumpeter have done a fairly decent job of the detail, although some of the superstructure looked a little bit lacking in places, so some research is needed to see what could and should be added. But what Trumpeter have done is they've given you a complete kit yet again. You've got railings, you've got photo etch ladders, you've got everything you need in there to build the kit. The only thing you've got to do is work out where to put the rig in. Other than that, it's pretty much all done. Low lights for me, I think probably the worst individual part in there is the actual elevator section. Pretty horrendous underneath, and that'll need a lot of reworking with plastic strip to get right, I think. But other than that, no issues really. All the parts were crisp, well moulded. The fact that we've got lots of slide moulded superstructure, which gives us lots of open windows, which means that we can thin them out and glaze them. So as you're looking on the ship, you'll see all that glass sparkling. So that'll be nice. I guess there is more pipe work and bits and pieces that could be added if we can find that information. The low lights, though very well done, is the girder frame, which is solid. It's not to everyone's liking. You can paint it up, put a very dark grey in the back and make the parts come out and it'll look all right. But in this day and age, with slide moulding technology the way it is, they could have moulded those with all the spaces in, empty spaces. What that would have ended up doing to the price tag, I don't know, and I'm sure that's a payoff that they've had to do. But that's probably the worst part of the kit, other than the clean-up issue on that one part. But I've got to say, overall, no issues with that. Like I say, when you've put that together, you've got a really interesting subject. It's very different to anything else. It looks different even to any aircraft carrier might build, because it's got this unusual format. So I just think it's a very different subject, and that in itself makes it really interesting. Lots of detail being added, but if you then get the Eduard edge set and replace all that girders, you've got something that's going to look really very authentic. Yeah, I really like it. I've got to say, as soon as it came out, I was attracted to it because I could see it looked unusual. Now I've been through the kit. The hull is one of the nicer hulls that Trumpeter have ever done. I don't think the superstructure parts are as good as other ships they've done. Like I say, come across a little bit basic, but that might just be me expecting more than's actually really there. So a bit of research needed on the ship, but lovely model all in all. So if you're interested in that, I hope that's helped you think about whether you want to buy into it or not. Thanks for looking in. Enjoy your modelling. Take care, and I will see you very soon.